of Mozilla, you can navigate to any website, and then you need like to train the software where is the data that you want. In this case, you train what are the things, the pieces of data that you consider rows in that page, for example, of backpacks. I consider that one row, I highlight another backpack, and I say that's another row, and then the software automatically learn where are the rest of the rows. You do then pick up the smaller pieces of information, of data, and you say that's my column, that's what I consider a column, that's the name of the backpack, that's the price of the backpack, and all of that gets dumped into that kind of table, like in a kind of CSV format there. You can do two things more on top of that. That is what basically we call a structure, and is you can plug in something on the beginning that is basically kind of a macro recorder. So we have that kind of macro recorder that you can record automatic actions on a website. Usually that will be, for example, doing a search. Here you can do a search on the search box on the top of that page, and that gets recorded there. So you can then have basically an API to that search box that will search for results and give you the data back of the results that you are getting back. And also, at the end of that extraction, you can run a crawler. We have a crawler, and you can just extract the data from all the web, from all that website that have the similar pattern in the layout of the page and in the URL. Now, the interesting thing here for non-technical people is that after you have done this, and all this was just point and click, you can just mix all the data sources that you want on this web app that we call dataset, and have like a huge dataset that you can query in real time and do queries like that. For a developer or a more technical person point of view, what is interesting is that from that dataset page, you have a button that says integrate that gives you directly the code, so you can integrate this into your script, into your web app, your application, or whatever. So you can just start using that information and making queries to that. Because all of those things that you were doing, marking where the rows and the columns is for the data that you want, is just every time that you save that, we are building an API for you automatically. So you are just building APIs as you navigate for the web and you train the tool. Now, the possibilities of this, at least for me, are endless. You can do basically anything that you want. You can access any data on the web that you want and build one thing on top of another. It's not just that. I can build an extractor that extracts, I don't know, the latest news of X thing, and then use that as an input for another connector that do blah, 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 and so on. So you can do really complex things that is just using web data to get more web data or to do a mobile app or whatever. I'm going to show, like, very briefly three examples, really simple examples. For example, a data visualization that a user from us has done in Tableau. She has created an API to extract data from a radio playlist and have created a very fancy Tableau visualization of where you can just, it's interactive, so what is really nice is to see it on the web. You can select like the DJs that you want, that the artists, and see the patterns in the statistics of each DJ, how many artists they are playing more than another, and things like that, that kind of comparisons, which is kind of cool. Another example, for example, this one is one of my favorites because I was involved on it. It's using machine learning. We help our friends at BigML. I don't know if you have heard about them, but it's an amazing startup to crawl Etsy.com. Etsy.com is some kind of eBay for small shops or people that do handmade stuff, like handmade jewelry or things like that. So we basically crawl most of Etsy.com and get things from each shop in Etsy, because Etsy have shops as eBay, where the people just can sell their stuff. And we extract information from each shop as like the number of items they have, where they were from, number of items they have sold, the kinds of items they were selling, if it was jewelry or it was painting or whatever. And then just using BigML, which is just also point and click machine learning, let's say, or drag and drop machine learning, we can build a prediction tree that predicts the success of an Etsy store in base of, okay, if you really want to have more than X sales per year, you will be more probably you will have more options, if you are in this or this city, or if you are doing this kind of stuff or this other kind of stuff, or if you have this amount of followers or tweets. Which is really cool, because that's the kind of information probably that Etsy, eBay, Amazon, all of that people is having, and it's using to empower their users, but it's actually public. I mean, the information of what that people is doing, it's on the web. It's on the public web. It's on Etsy or Amazon or eBay, and we can use it also. And the last example is just make an app. So another user of us has created a mix of APIs to search like for Christmas gifts. And just creating a mix of different connectors to different shops, also to different websites, and then put some UI on top of that on a website. You have basically a search box that searches for different kinds of stuff and have a few algorithms trying to improve that, which is very nice, and probably takes just like the basic of that takes probably just half an hour to get it done. So that's the basic presentation I was going to give. This is data for everyone, APIs for everyone, so I really encourage you to use it, try it, and put it on trial. Now I want to do a few things like that live with you, because I think it's more fun, and we can see how it works live or how it doesn't work, because it's live, it can fail. And, oh, sorry. Okay, so I already opened it. Yeah, we can see it. This is our web browser. It's called Import.io, and this is the first thing that you see when you open it. I'm already logged in. So first of all, I'm going to create a new API, something very quick and simple, so you see how the training process works. So we have here a normal web browser. We just have here a small wizard where we can follow the instructions about how to extract the data. And here we have a kind of table where we are going to be seeing the data that we are extracting. So we have an indication of what's going on, or what we are going to get on the end. So I'm going to imdb.com, for example, and I'm going to do something quite easy, just as a first example. If the internet more or less works, yep. Here we are. This is just a list of 250 best rated movies or something like that from IMDb. I'm going to go very quick on the wizard, as I already know what everything means. But basically here I'm just selecting a few options, and I am basically reloading the page so the browser can optimize it, so it knows if it needs JavaScript to run it, and the data to still be here, and that kind of things. Okay, here we are. So the first thing that we need to do is to train it so it knows where is the things that I will call rows of data. And a row for data for me in this example is going to be each movie. Very simple example, as the data already there looks more or less like a table. But this is scalable, and we can do the same for any other piece or kind of data. So basically I just need to highlight something and say train rows. We can see now that it's already highlighted. I again drag that, say train rows, and the algorithms behind this have learned now where all the rows are, which is nice. I say, okay, I've got all my rows. Now I need just to tell him which are the columns. So for example, let's do one column that is just a link to the movies that we are seeing there. We have different kinds of types of data, so you can already format it in advance. Okay. And of course now we don't need really to train everything much on if it's easier. We just give it one example. It already knows what all the links are. We can do things a bit more complex, and even if this is a dumb example, if we want to map, for example, the year, as you see here when I'm just mousing on it, we could just take the whole thing. I'm training it like that, but the platform is more powerful than that. I can redo that. We can just train it just to get things that are inside things or things like that, so that the algorithm can learn that kind of stuff. So if, for example, train it to get just the year inside the parentheses, and it won't learn that with only one example, but if we give like a couple of examples, or 3 in other cases, it will eventually learn that. We could keep going on and get more data, but I'm going to finish this to get to the final point. That's finished. We upload this to the platform, and in the moment that I just rename this thing is creating an API for us, if it works. Yep. I click Show me the data, and we go to the dataset page that I told you before. In this dataset page, we have this kind of view where, if we are in the case where there are, the input here for the API is the URL that we just have trained. So if we train this for, let's say, a product page in Amazon or a movie page in IMDb, we can just now pass in all the movie links in IMDb, all the product pages in Amazon that we want, and start getting all the data. Refresh here is more for human beings. For technical people, this is to do a query, and we can integrate this into our code. I'm going to show you how to do that with a bit more complex example, which is what we call a federated, which is why we call this a federated platform. And I can create a new data set. Got it. And just with a bit of, I'm going to do a trick, which I have some UIDs here. And I'm going to create what we call a mix. I pick the data, and I can just do this small trick and get all of this. All of these are what we call connectors that are basically APIs to the search box of store locators in the UK. So sorry, the example is UK. We are based in London, and I live in London, so it will probably have been nice to have these two store locators here, but the goal is the same. So this will find me stores of Aldi, Asda, Morrisons, and Tesco, which are kind of big supermarkets in the UK, just giving an input. They have all of them the same input and more or less the same schema, so the data is going to be nice. This is I think my postcode, and when I do that, it's query all the things, and I'm getting all the data back. The data is a bit dirty here. It has some empty spaces, just because probably not, just because I didn't map all of them correctly. Like one of them, I think, is Asda, have a street name, where the other have the column name, street address. But you can see, I think, the point that I can just have different connectors that more or less have the same mapping and have the same input and use them at the same time. That's what we call the federated platform. You can do one query that can go into our servers to a big number of different APIs, up to 100 APIs, and do all those 100 queries at the same time. You will get back all the results. And we can see now how to do that now in the code. If I click in the integrate page, and I can't save this thing, okay, we can hear this is like tutorial or explanation of how to use our API. And we have REST examples, as you see here. So we could basically just, if I type here my password, generate my API key. And now we have here just the query example. So I can just copy and paste this on the command line and got everything back as a JSON. Or I personally use Python. I will go to the Python. We have the Python client library that instead of using REST is using CometD, which is better for us because it's doing asynchronous request. So it can basically dump these 4 queries at the same time in this bit of here, dump the queries in the 4 UIDs, and I will be getting in an asynchronous way all the results back, which is very powerful. Imagine just this was like a bit stupid. I put my postcode, I see which stores I have near me. But now imagine just I can just get the whole list of postcodes in the UK, do that for the 20 top supermarkets in the UK, and immediately, in just maybe a script that will run in 3 or 4 hours, get the location, the shopping hours, and all the information of all the UK superstores, which is like really important information or data that you can use for a lot of different things. You can do a web app that finds things, or you can do statistics about how they are distributed or how they compete with each other. So that's basically the almost everything that I was going to tell you. I only want to show you one more thing, and then I'm open to all the questions that you have, and it's that if we go again to the IMDb example that I've done before, I've done it that way just to show you how the tool works, but it actually can be done way faster, or the tool is much more powerful than that. We are working at the moment in just improving the whole process, so the people who is non-technical have to do as less steps as possible to create this API, and the people who is technical can actually have much more advantage of how powerful the platform is, because right now I think it's a bit constrained by the UI. So for the non-technical people, this is the amazing part. You can just do things right now in some pages, but on the future it will be available on all the pages. If I create a structure and I select a few things here, when I now have to select if this is a sample page, of one row or multiple rows, I have like a beta feature that say, I don't know what it say. Is your data in a table? Extracted with one click. And if I click that, it will automatically dump all the data of that table in rows that already have, that are already structured, have the category, and have all its thing. Just when the spinning if it finishes. That's something that at the moment only works all right in like kind of easy examples, but it will eventually work on any website as we have to select the table and click extract table. And there we go. And that's like the way we are working for non-technical people. So this is more automated. So one day you don't even need to go through this process. You just give a URL, press a button, and we give back you a table of data and ask you, is actually that the data you want, or you want to change any column or rows? For technical people, the possibilities are even better. What we are working at the moment is in some kind of developer notepad or whatever attached to this, where you can change things manually. So at the moment, in the latest update of the browser, you already have something when you are creating your columns that you can say, show advanced features, and you can manually change XPaths and regex in case the algorithm haven't detected something, or there are, I don't know, metadata in a page or things like that. You can just extract more stuff using XPaths and regex, and the future developer console that we will implement will have more of that kind of ability. So for the people who know how to code and who know what an XPath or regex is, they could be doing really a lot of powerful stuff with this. And That's basically everything I wanted to tell you, and now I'm really open for all the questions that you might have and all the anything. Thanks.
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for coming with this, because, you know, I find it amazing. I have two questions. The first one is, am I able with this tool, like, you know, with this example in IMDb, I go to this list, but for example, in this page, there is only information about the movie, you know, the title, and the rating.
Yeah.
But if I want to cross some information, for example, the director, the actors, can I do it somehow? Like, okay, so I follow this link, then this other link, I get the data from the director's page, and
in the connector. Doing a connector, you basically can record actions on the browser, so you will be able to record something like search for a title movie, click on the movie, and then click on the director, or something complex like that. But if you actually want like to map the whole thing, you can just create a crawler, because if you extract just like the normal movie page from IMDb, which have actually the same layout as the director page from IMDb, you can just lay out, okay, this is the name, this is the rating, this is blah, blah, blah. You will probably need some help of experts to map the whole thing, but you can map the whole thing, and then you can just crawl thing. It will take days to crawl it, but you can get eventually all the data that is there.
So I would be able to do the same, but between different pages?
Yes, yes.
Wow, that's awesome.
Absolutely. I've done that for IMDb already, and for Film Affinity. We have also done like a visualization with Tableau some time ago with like ratings between countries and things like that, from just scrolling IMDb and Film Affinity.
Wow. And the second question is, why didn't know about this 3 months ago?
That's a question a lot of people may ask. Why didn't I know this 1 year ago when I was working on those awful web scrapers? Yeah, I know.
Well, thank you. Real thank you for coming with this.
Thank you.
Actually, I have no technical background, and a few weeks ago I was desperate, copy-pasting information from a website, and I don't know how, in my desperation, I Googled a little bit, and I found Importio, and at the beginning the UI wasn't that clear for me, so I needed to write you a few emails, but then with a few clicks when you get it, it's
I know.
magic. So
The UI is not great, we know it, and it will probably change radically in a few months or so. We are working on that, but we know it's the kind of tool you need to fight a bit against it in the beginning, till you learn how it works, then it's amazing. Of course, it's not an easy problem from a UX perspective as how to do that UI, how to do that workflow, because it's kind of a difficult thing to do. It seems very easy when I was doing it here, because I was knowing where to click exactly in all the steps. If you are doing it on your own without help, it could be, it could not be, but if not, you can always go to our customer support. They are great people, and they will help you, that's for sure.
you saved me a lot of time. So
Yeah.
Okay, two questions.
Yeah.
Does that work with invalid HTML? First question. And second question is, does the system know how to deal with pagination?
Yes. Both answers are yes. It deals with all kinds of HTML, and it also deals with pagination in the case of the connector. So in the case of you are doing a search, you automatically there is an option to say this page have pagination. You just after you have mapped the first page, you click on the second page, and then it learns how to paginate through all the pages. In the case of a structure, you need to paginate manually, but it's easier because in that case the input is just the URL, so it's easy to do.
Does it know how to deal with infinite scroll? You know, like Twitter, it's more complicated, right?
That's difficult, and it depends on the case. It depends on the case. It depends how the infinite scroll is done on the page. So in principle, it doesn't, but in most of all the cases, there is a workaround to get the data eventually in one way or in another. Yes?
Just to say that as a heavy user of Importayo, I can say the tool is fantastic and the support team also.
Ah, thank you. I didn't know you go through support. They are great. Thanks. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.